Well, one of the comments I hear from guys, whether I'm coaching them or in groups, guys will say something like, you know what I've noticed? I've noticed that I tend to act out every so many days, whether it's 3 days or 7 days or 14, whatever the time frame. I've noticed that this just seems to be the way it is. Is there anything I can do about it? Help. That is today's topic, so welcome aboard.
Ready?
When it comes to porn, are you stuck, spinning out, or slipping backwards in your life? If so, then welcome to the Finding Traction podcast, a show dedicated to those who are looking to gain recovery momentum away from porn and toward the life and relationships they have always hoped for. Now, here's your host, Vern
Well, one of the things that I have been moving towards really is pretty much helping guys full-time now in terms of walking through and helping them walk away from porn and towards a greater, much better life. So I have developed a number of different ways that can be of help to you. First of all, I've developed a 52-week video course. Each video is about 15 to 20 minutes with worksheets, and I have various guys that are doing it in small groups. And that is one way. A number of those guys connect with me weekly. They connect with me weekly. We go through the material together. They help hold each other accountable. They support each other. That is our weekly traction groups. We also have just a monthly community group where guys that listen to this podcast really want to get together once a month. We meet on the last Sunday night of every month, 6 p.m. Pacific time. And it's a chance to ask questions or to update just in terms of how they're doing, where things are at. And again, you might want individual coaching. There's a lot of different ways that you can connect with me. If you want information about some of these, you can find it on the website, which is bandofbrothers.care. Or you can reach out to me directly at bandofbrothers.care@gmail.com. Perhaps we can get together. We can schedule a free Zoom call where we can explore maybe in more detail the next steps that you could take. Okay, let's get back to this idea of you or me acting out every so many days or so many weeks. The bottom line is that it's predictable. I think it's an important observation. In fact, I have started to ask this question of guys in my coaching. You know, have you noticed how many days you go between acting out? I think it's a good question. It's actually one of the reasons why I think and I highly recommend a tracking tool. 2 weeks or 2 podcasts ago, I essentially introduced a weekly planning tool. And this is actually a great way that you could get a really clear idea of the periodic nature of perhaps relapses, because you actually can see it on paper. You can have to go back a couple podcasts. I think it's called Summertime Strategies, and we talk about that. You can also get that tracking tool on the website. You can sign up for that as well. So I think it's helpful. It's helpful to look at, how many times or what is the frequency that I tend to act out. Let me give a couple introductory thoughts here. First of all, I think that most everyone has some version of a cycle. One picture that I use all the time for guys is this concept or this idea of a carousel, or what other people call a merry-go-round. Merry-go-rounds, they're found at carnivals or fairs. They have these plastic horses that go up and down. Usually kids ride them. They rise and fall. I don't know what my problem was as a kid, but when I went on the carousel, I would often ride in that wooden box that never went up and down. Maybe I must have been some kind of risk-averse kid, Or maybe I just didn't like horses. Sorry to all you horse lovers. Some of you are out there. Anyways, you get the idea. You're in front of a carousel. Let's say you have a kid. You put your kid on one of the horses, and you watch your kid on the horse, and the horse goes around back, and eventually the horse, hopefully with your kid still on it, comes back around after a certain period of time. Of course, depending on how fast the carousel is spinning, right? And I think this is a helpful word picture because some guys feel like they're doing great. Some guys even think, maybe I've beat this thing or I'm over this thing. But then, you got it, the horse just comes back around again. And sometimes I have to say to guys, and I don't like to take away from guys' confidence, but I say, the horse seems to be around back, but it will come back around again. And it's what you're doing in the meantime, the skills and habits you're developing. So when that horse inevitably comes back around again, you can more successfully deal with it this time, when it's right in front of you, than you did last time. Some guys, as we've talked about, mistakenly think that they're doing better just because the horse goes around out of sight. It could simply be, there's that normal time between when your body has got used to between orgasms, for example, depending on how old you are. So it simply may be that. It may not be that you're actively growing in recovery. Your body is just waiting for the next time. So in that situation, you're not really recovered at all. You're just between periodic relapses. Some of you are going, well, now I'm truly depressed, right? So what does it mean then to be better situated or better prepared for the next time the horse comes around? Let's say, for example, that you tend to act out, just pick a number, 14 days. Let's say that you tend to act out every 14 days. Let's use that as an example. So what's a guide to do? Well, I think it does start, first of all, with the belief that the old pattern doesn't need to play out this time. I think that's important. I think having a belief that change is possible is important. But let me say this, hope, even optimism, is not an effective substitute for a strategy. So let's talk about a strategy for preparing for that horse when it comes back into sight. I want to talk about 4 areas of upping your game or preparing, how to, if you were using the horse example in the carousel, how to hobble or hamstring that horse the next time it comes back around and is right in front of you. Here's the first one, up your big why. So why do you want to be porn free? Well, I know it's clear to you when the horse is out of sight, but you know how often we lose sight of the fact and that desire to act out, when the horse is right back in front of us again. It's like our big why is gone. We don't seem to remember it. And I really encourage guys to really get good at quickly calling to mind that. We actually work with guys on developing an acronym, some really handy, some really effective way that makes sense for them, that they practice and they rehearse even when they don't feel like they need it. And it's there, it's fresh, it's something that has impact for them. So when the carousel horse comes back around again, they truly have a great handle, and it's really right there at the tip of their tongue why I want to be porn free, even though right now I'm feeling conflicted. So that is the first one, up your big why. Here's the second one, up your boundaries. See, boundaries are the things that normally keep us safe from drifting. If any of you have obviously, ridden on freeways, those are the rumble strips on the side of the road that jolt us back awake if we fall asleep and our car starts drifting off towards the right. So if you're heading into a vulnerable time in your cycle, so to speak, this is not a time to be relaxing those boundaries. If your wife is heading off to bed, this is not a time for you to stay up for just a bit to finish your show. If anything, it's a time for you to move the fence back from the eroding cliffs. Reminds me, I used to go, I was a student at University of British Columbia, and it's built on this peninsula that looks out over the Pacific Oceans, and ships come in and out. It's unbelievably beautiful. But the cliffs continually were eroding, and so they kept having to move the fences back to keep people safe. But there were always people who would go under or over the fence to just sit at the edge of the cliff for a better view. So, not a good idea, especially when you know that you tend to act out however it is, and that time is coming up again. Excuse me. This is also a good time to ask yourself, the last 2, 3, 4 times I acted out, what was the method that I used? What device did I do? How did I play into that cycle? Let's say, give you an example. Let's say the last couple times, you ended up picking up your phone beside you in bed and you ended up just scrolling social media, for example. Well, guess what? I bet you're going to have that thought again. I'm not clairvoyant. I just know that you're going to have that thought, that temptation again. So you go, you know what? The last 2 times that's what happened. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it there and hope that I have enough willpower next time. No, that is not an effective solution. Hope is not a strategy. Put your phone in the kitchen. Buy a digital alarm clock. I'm told they still make them, believe it or not. So number 2, up your boundaries. Number 1, up your big why. Number 2, up your boundaries. Number 3, up your plan. I tell guys that behaviors are often just a natural evolution of their active commitments. If you've ever taken any courses, you've seen, for example, the diagram of the iceberg. And I don't know, is it 20% of the iceberg that's visible above the water, but 80% of the iceberg is actually below the water. And so I say to guys, I know you're fixated on the bit that's above, your acting out behaviors or your sobriety, but let's start with looking at the 80% of the iceberg under the water, and that is your plan, your active commitments. If we start focusing on that, I guarantee you the part that's above the water will begin to naturally take care of itself. In our check-ins, we use this shield diagram, and I could send it to you if you're interested in it. Just send me an email. But it's a shield diagram that we use, and we go through, and with our guys, we check in. Okay, what have I done in my active commitments around my physical life, my spiritual life, my relational life, the areas where I'm building? What have I done to build good, healthy self-care and passions in my life? And finally, what have I done to renew my commitment to recovery this week? And we say to guys, that really is the essence of your recovery, getting in that state. And here's the truth. If you back off those commitments, you can still go porn free for a while, right? You can still do that. But usually it's like taking your foot off the gas pedal. Your car will eventually slow down. And I can guarantee you the next time that horse comes around again, you will be in trouble because those active commitments have not created the sort of momentum for you to blow past this cyclical pattern that you've had previously. And here's the 4th one. Up your connections. Back in episode 68, I talked about, I think we called that podcast, the one rule to rule them all. And here it is. If you have not had 60 days of recovery, which is basically 2 months, I would have you start by doing this. I want you to connect with someone every day around your recovery until you hit 60 days porn free. If you're not hitting 60 days, then you're still on the daily connection plan. Now, of course, the fewer days you have between relapses, it's almost more self-evident. Let's say you tend to relapse every 3 days, then it's really easy for guys to go, well, I just need to be talking to somebody every day. But let's say you tend to be more periodic. Let's say it's every month. Well, guys tend to get lazy, or they tend to get lax in how often they're connecting with guys. Of course, if you're in a weekly recovery group and on WhatsApp in one of our groups, then a lot of those things would become second nature to you. But I would say this, if you've noticed, for example, that you are coming again up to that vulnerable time, then that is a time to truly up your connection game. It's one of the reasons on the weekly check-in sheet where I've said, for me, Sunday afternoon is a time that I'm often feel vulnerable. It used to be Friday afternoon. Those were times where I really upped my connection game. So let's go back. If you find that you are struggling periodically and those, it just tends to take this normal every time it seems to be this amount of time, I would really encourage you to be smart and strategic and up your why game, your boundary game, your strategic commitment and active commitment game, and your connection game as you come into those times, so that, as we talked about, that you can blow past what has always been a limiting belief or a limiting experience that you can never get past so many days. All right, let me end by going back to our carousel or merry-go-round example, and hopefully this will give you some encouragement. It is my experience that it is not inevitable that you need to succumb to the next cycle of temptation. I would actually say this. It's my experience and the experience of many guys that I coach that you can actually experience that merry-go-round or carousel slowing down. What was perhaps every 3 days becomes every 10 days, or every 3 weeks, or 3 months. And I think that's good news, that the horse is not always right in front of you, crapping on your feet. As you grow in skills, habits, and connections, that carousel does slow down so that you can actually get on with your life in terms of the calling on your life, and you can get on to the things that you were really made for and that you really want to see in your life. So, once again, that is truly my hope that this becomes a growing reality in your life. If you want to reach out to me, I'd love to hear from you. My email, once again, is bandofbrothers.care@gmail.com. We'll see you next time.